We live in an increasingly mobile world. Today, more than at any time in the past, we are in the position of being able to travel wherever we want, whenever we want. In 2012, the world hit a travel milestone. For the first time in history, according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, more than 1 billion tourists travelled the globe in a single year. This figure is made even more extraordinary by the fact that just over 60 years earlier, it was only 25 million. France was the most popular country, with over 83 million tourists visiting in 1 year. Today, we think very little about getting on a plane to fly domestically to another city in our own country, or internationally to a far-flung destination. But it's important to remember that the first commercial transatlantic flights didn't start until the 1950s. And for a long time, flying was a time-consuming and expensive business that simply wasn't accessible to everyday people. Technology fueled the development of international transport, but even more significantly, it has also transformed the experience of international travel and communication beyond all recognition. In the past, for those who travelled internationally, for leisure or to live and work in another country, communicating with family and friends back home was a challenge. But today, it's now nearly as easy to stay in touch with a friend living or travelling on the other side of the world as the one standing next to you. As a result of all these technological changes, the world has become what we call a global village. People travel widely and often live in countries far from their loved ones. How about you? Do you have many friends and family living overseas?
Yes, actually. Quite a few of them around Europe, almost in every single country in Europe. The well-known countries such as Germany, Holland, Sweden, Belgium, Switzerland, England, Ireland.
I have a huge number of friends living in New York at the moment, which is why I'm visiting for work and for pleasure and for a whole range of reasons they're over here. So I thought I would pop past and spend a week in the sunshine because it is winter back home in Melbourne.
Yes, I do. Loads of family in the Philippines, North America and all over Europe.
I have a lot of family in Jersey, which is one of the Channel Islands, but apart from that, I have some friends who live in Europe, but not outside of the continent.
It is now estimated that nearly 80% of the world's population has access to a mobile phone. It is thought that in under 2 years, there will be more mobile phones than people on the planet. With smartphones that can connect to the internet and the explosion of social media sites like Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, there are more and more ways to stay in touch with your family and friends wherever they live. So many of these developments have happened so quickly, it has become increasingly difficult to remember how we communicated before. And for some people, it's almost impossible to imagine how we would manage without internet and mobile communications. How about you? How do you communicate with people overseas?
Generally by Skype.
Has this changed over time?
Yes, it has changed over time. It used to be letters and telephone calls, and now it's email and Skype.
Can you imagine a world without internet-based communication now?
No, it's my job and I need the internet to work.
How do you communicate with friends and family overseas?
Yeah, there's a whole range of different methods you can use to keep in touch with your friends and family when they're overseas. I would predominantly use things like Facebook and email and Skype. For my more media savvy friends, we may use Twitter to keep in touch. Obviously, Instagram is a great way of getting an idea of what people are up to and a snapshot of their day. So yeah, there's so many tools that have just come around in the last few years that make keeping in touch a lot easier.
Has the way that you've communicated with friends and family changed over time?
Yeah, it's definitely changed the way that we keep in touch when friends or families are overseas. I think in the past, I know that when I travelled 3 or 4 years ago, the best way to get info home is, you know, you'd send an email and then you'd send a couple of postcards. But now, you just send a Facebook message, you send a Facebook update and mum and dad know where you are. So it's a lot easier and faster.
Could you imagine a world today without any internet-based communications?
No, absolutely not. I had Wi-Fi at my apartment where I'm staying this morning, and as soon as I got up I realised if I was going to do anything today I needed to have internet. So the first thing I did was jump on the train and go and get myself hooked up with a US SIM card so that I had my internet at my fingertips, because it's scary how lost you feel when you don't have the internet right there at your fingertips. You feel you don't have your maps, you don't have your contacts, you don't have any of that things that keeps you grounded and keeps you connected with society. So yeah, a world without internet is quite foreign to me.
How do you communicate with friends and family overseas?
I usually speak with them over the internet. We use Skype a lot, which is very popular these days, and a lot of emails back and forth.
Has this changed over time?
We've definitely gotten more used to Skype. Back in the early days, Skype was pretty difficult and the connections were bad, especially in China, so we tended to use more emails in the earlier days.
Can you imagine a world without internet-based communication now?
I honestly cannot. I was saying to a friend the other day that I couldn't imagine that my grandfather, who's now 100 years old, never had internet growing up, and I just can't imagine life without a smartphone and without constant internet access.
How do you communicate with friends and family overseas?
I communicate with them on Skype and via email and through social networking as well, so Facebook and Twitter.
Has how you communicate with them changed over time?
I used to communicate sometimes through letters when I was very, very young, but yeah, predominantly now through social media, which obviously is occurred in the last few years.
Could you imagine a world today without any internet-based communications?
I think that people would be on time, because I think before, when you had only telephones in the house and you had no internet, you'd say to people, I'll meet you here at this time, and you'd just be there. Whereas now, because you can say, I'm running 5 minutes late, I'm running 10 minutes late, you've got an excuse. So I think people would be on time if we didn't have those.